Again about reforms, and we'll continue our number of briefings, and now we'll speak about the roadmap. Experts from the animation package of reforms developed for the future parliament and are ready to make a presentation right here. I invite Igor Koliushko, who's an expert of APIA and the head of Center for Political and Legal Reforms, Olexii Khmara, Transparency International, Oleg Matsekh, APIA Economic Group Manager, and Kuibida, Maxim, Latsyba, Vadym, Miskyi, all of them are participants of APIA. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Maxim Latsyba. I work for Independent Center of Political Studies, and which is one of the participants of the civic coalition of reanimation package of reforms, APR. And we are happy that our coalition exists, and that so many people from our coalition went to the parliament, running and the candidates to the parliament. So three, at least, political forces took. They are in three political parties. We have 200 to 300 people who could be taken to the parliament. So please come to us. Our task, nevertheless, is to have 226 MPs from the mentioned package of reforms. It's a joke. My goal is to tell you that RPR is an NGO, non-political coalition. We are far away from all political forces, and our goal is reforms in Ukraine. That's why recently there were a lot of questions, and whether we are all running to the parliament. No, APR as a civic movement is still there. All organizations, all key experts are working on the development of reforms and the promotion of them, and for the sake of that we held several meetings of Coordination Council. We developed a memorandum, and very briefly I will quote some positions from that memorandum. For us, politicians, and first of all, to be known, so there will be a civic control. Civic expertise is monitoring that. Will continue to develop draft laws, and every Monday, every Tuesday, we'll have a meeting with politicians near the parliament. Will demand reforms, and even those which we had quite recently approved. So APIA is a non-partisan initiative which came out from Maidan and from independent NGOs. So its participants see their mission in united efforts to promote reforms in different spheres, to develop democratic, respectable Ukrainian state and prosperous society with equal opportunities for every citizen. To develop and self-realize. We have experts different opportunities. The strategic goal of RPR is to realize the key reforms that will bring to open society, reporting of the power to society, and new relations between people and the state. Values of RPR is patriotism, political neutrality, professionalism, to be open, independent, and focus results orientation. That's focus on results, and that's very important. And the way of action, RPR, that is a network which supports a dialogue with the different groups, and we promote projects for them to be approved on different levels. Key principles of participation in RPR. All who share our values can become our members, and who would like to strengthen the network to achieve these goals. And it happens on the basis of recognition of internal rules and also the agenda of our initiative. Participants of the network are obliged to not to do anything which can hurt, which can damage the reputation of RPR. Governance is done by Coordination Council, which consists of managers, working groups, and leading experts. For us to understand the main unit of reanimation package, that is a working group, which includes experts on topics and that develop draft laws. Coordination Council just helps to lobby that, to promote that in the government and also in the parliament. At the request of activists, we also decided guarantee of independence of RPR. A member of the board cannot be someone who belongs then to both of political parties. To ensure independence, so someone who decided to run, they will cease their membership in RPR, and also they cannot represent in public our initiative. That's why all candidates, all civic activists, candidates who run to the parliament and who are in the leadership of RPR, they filled certain forms. We are very thankful to them. Now they are working in a different format. So the initiative is non-partisan completely, and we don't have politicians in our board. It is prohibited to use a logotype of APR and also this phrasal reanimated package of reforms in campaign materials and campaign products during the campaign. APR is financed, we raise money which allows us to act independently, and we decide collectively how to spend money we raise. Its conclusion is RPR is strong as never, and we continue to work. And at present, now you will hear those requirements to political parties that run, who have their lists, and we will hear our requirements to them.
Hello, colleagues. I'm Vadym Miskyi. I'm a participant of the reanimation resurrection station package. The measure fighting unit is a working group in our case. We are talking target-oriented groups who work on some specific reform. We have more than 20 such groups. 16 of those have elaborated systematic step-by-step documents which describe how to step-by-step implement this or another reform. Today we have prepared the full-fledged reforms for the anti-corruption legislation, let's say judicial reform and the anti-corruption package, also for the Ukrainian companies to enter the market of EU, and some other reforms which are going to hear from our colleagues. All those documents have been united in such a roadmap which are going to offer to propose to our parliament. It contains 16 reforms which are prepared by the resuscitation package PR. We are going to send to the European and democratic parties which are going to take part in the elections, and then we are going to visit the office of each of those parties in order to ensure their support for the actually voting for the reforms in the parliament would be. And there are a lot of people who are going to vote for those reforms, and we know that half of the parliament members are going to be elected according to the majority platform. We are going to visit each regional center where we're going to work with the candidates' deputies and organize the round tables dedicated to issues of reforms. Also will propose them to include in their election programs to undertake to approve those reforms when being members of new parliament. Those reforms which have been prepared by our experts, this information will be given to you by the leaders or managers of the working groups. Good afternoon, my name is Igor Koliushko. I'm head of the Center of the Political and Legal Reform Center. Our center and our experts cooperate or work in 5 working groups in the RPR. 3 of those we had actually, and then in the remaining 2 we tried to participate as well. According to our agreement, as we agreed before, I'm going to talk about 3 working groups, specifically dedicated to the issues reform of the public administration. And it's understood, it's clear that the reform or the change of the system, which the Maidan was talking about, it has not taken place yet. And our experience, and we are positive, that if we really wish to realistically change the organization of the power in this country, we have to start from two reforms: the reform of the cabinet of ministers and the system of the central executive bodies, and the second reform, the decentralization. Actually, two working groups have been established to deal with those issues. If I was going to talk about the big progress in this or attending the implementation of those reforms, I would be a liar, but I can assure you that, first of all, we have prepared all the necessary basic materials in order to launch those reforms. In different aspects, the situation is different. We everywhere prepare the concepts, conceptual visions, and materials, documents, and many actually projects. We prepare the draft laws, which can be submitted and considered to and considered by the parliament. Unfortunately, I would say that both of those reforms have such several systematic problems. First of all, it's the lack of the political will to introduce those reforms. And, a lot of people are talking a lot about the decentralization issues, but not so many realistic steps are being taken today. Speaking about the reform of the cabinet ministers, again, we face a problem that even the level of discussion and debating with our politicians, we are drastically behind, disastrously behind, I would say, from the situation. Even the working groups has not been established to attend to those issues. The government tried to do something. We are talking about the reform of the state service, public service. There is a process on the go. There is a draft law which is being generated, and which is going to be submitted not on behalf of us but on behalf of government for public discussion. But the public service is just one of the aspects of the state authority or state management. And by reforming only this service, we are not going to achieve our goal. This is something which we always emphasize in our discussion or dialogue with the government, but we did not attain big results here or big success here. Again, there is also, the concept has been approved in some of the laws, which can be operational today through providing pilot conditions for some kind of elements of decentralization, which I'm talking about. The law on municipal cooperation, the law on uniting different communities, which is, to be very honest with you, has not been fully generated. But we do not know whether we are going to have some changes or modifications in the constitution regarding the decentralization issue. And the third block, unfortunately, we do not have enough time to speak in detail about that, but the third issue, we are talking about constitutional reform. And a special working group has been set up in RPR. And the situation here is as follows. In our vision, the problem, I'd say, if we're talking about the public, yet in April this year, we set up a working group which prepared a very extensive package of documents regarding the possible constitutional reform. Unfortunately, neither the Verkhovna Rada working group nor later the President of Ukraine have used this proposal. There was not a single dialogue with the parliamentary commissions or presidential people. We have never seen a single action starting since April this year. The amazing thing, actually, President partially used what we elaborate in the working group regarding the decentralization issue, but since it has been actually filled with some other components which were not to the liking of many politicians, then the prospects of this draft law became at least unclear, to put it mildly. Today, it's being considered by the Venetian Commission, and we do hope that in October the Venetian Commission will publish their findings or the conclusions, and we'll be able to achieve what we tried to achieve since July this year, addressing both the President and the Verkhovna Rada. Let's at last start our dialogue. Let's make the situation such as when the presidential represents will come to the open and explain what they meant by their provisions when the draft law which they prepared. So again, taking into consideration the lack of time, I'm going to stop here.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I represent Economic Reforms Department. I'm a manager of that department in the renovation package of reforms. We understand that this is one of the key directions, key issues, and requires immediate changes, immediate reforms. We state that during all the period since we received, we have new government, we have not changed, no reform took place. So they give us promises all the time, they feed us with their promises, but where we need radical reforms, I mean economy, there were no such reforms. Those changes should be in the dimension of deregulation. They should cancel the majority or maybe 90% of regulatory acts which milk business. And also we must harmonize our system with European system, I mean regulations. And that requires maximum deregulation and also given regulatory functions to business. The monitoring from the state should be, the state should care of the security. We prepared a number of draft laws, and in our policy plan and our roadmap of reforms, you will find them in that part which is about economics. They are numbered, and they are registered in the parliament. The second issue, that is a tax reform. And also we gave a press conference already, and we told that this tax reform, which was developed in the cabinet of ministers, it is populistic. It doesn't solve the problem, or it doesn't. It's not in the root of the problem. And also we have our draft law on tax reform. We suggested to reduce the social tax by 2 times, and there's a draft law 1182. It opens the road to legal salaries. The third big block of issues, big set of issues, it's about those draft laws which fit the ratification agreement, ratification of the association agreement in that framework. And we have explained clearly which steps to be taken by public institutions, which legislation must be approved in the parliament for the association agreement, not to be just declared, not to be just on paper, but in life. Because association means that we harmonize all legislation, norms, standards to those they have in EU. For our producers to use them, for exchange of goods between Ukraine and EU to be realistic, for free trade zone to start working. We were able to work. They passed the only one law we developed, and that is about the safety of food products. And also the sanitary sanctions should be cancelled in this field. Also we work on 4G. Yesterday there was a shameful case when our authorities declined an opportunity to introduce 3G, not 4G, 3G. We will demand them to do that, and you will find answers for that issue also in our policy paper. Thank you. Good afternoon. Olexii, Khmara. I represent an NGO, Transparency International Ukraine, and together with the partners who are working on a corruption fight in the framework of LTR. You know, it's easy and difficult for me to talk to you because in March we had a meeting and we told that we need Ukraine, we need reforms in Ukraine. Now, 6 months later, We again say we need anti-corruption fight and reforms in Ukraine. There are two questions. What has happened during these 6 months? What good happened in Ukraine? Because we can, try to take. The only thing is there are a lot of anti-corruption legislation, draft laws, prevention of corruption, registers, anti-corruption bureau, and data, and many other things that can reduce the level of corruption in Ukraine in 2 years by 2-3 times. Why that didn't happen? Because there is no majority in the parliament. Many colleagues say that we need 226 votes to vote for these reforms. All these draft laws are in the parliament. They are there for consideration. The leadership of the parliament can register them and they can bring them to the house, but there is no one to vote for them. That's why we decided to remind the future parliament. We prepared these materials for them, infographics, and it's about anti-corruption. And there are these concrete steps to be taken to reduce corruption. And there is a list of draft laws to be approved, and they are registered, and they have numbers. So we give instructions to which button to push to vote for these draft laws. We want all Ukrainian MPs, all who run to the parliament, we want them to support these reforms, and they should take it as their program when they run to the parliament. When they are elected to the parliament, they will try to reinvent a bicycle. But there is no time for that. 6 months have passed. 3 months during this campaign. It will be 9 months. You know what happens in 9 months. So we need to bear reforms. So please, when you see the documents, help. Spread them among your colleagues. In the society, we are missing 5 things in our country. Punishment for the corruption of top officials, and we need the bureau for that. We need to tell the conflict of interest starting with the president and down to the village mayor. We need a law for that, and we need to simplify all information of assets, property, etc. Easy access to data we can use for our benefit, and also separation between business and politics. So there should be maybe transparency of electoral process, and also financing of political parties. Thank you very much. My name is Roman Kuibida, and I'm from the Center of Political Reforms, and I represent the group that works on reforms in judiciary. And this order, or in courts, they speed up events on Maidan, what they did. And the courts are called like they're corrupted, they do whatever they want without, they are illegal. So there is a need for reforms in this field. And there are values in the association agreement between EU and Ukraine. Efficiency of judiciary, and they should consider cases, they should be professional, they should be fair. And also the judiciary should be independent, an independent branch, independent on other branches, but not independent on law. And also we should overcome corruption in the judiciary. The colleagues from anti-corruption on corruption fight, they already mentioned some issues. And we need to reduce the number of judges working in this system. As to efficiency, how to make our courts more efficient, we suggest, I will just name some proposals from those draft laws that we prepared. First of all, courts should lose the power to take out requests of people. So they should not play a ping pong like, this is not my jurisdiction, go to that court, the other one says to go to that court. So courts should decide who to appoint someone who will be responsible for a case, not people, whether they came to a competent court or not. Also, we suggest that all court proceedings There should not be a requirement to get permission for video recording. All trials should be open for TV, for video recording. Also, we suggest to reduce the time, to enlarge time for cassation, for appeal of court decision, because now the term is short, so short that people have no time to even to find a lawyer. So also we suggest to introduce electronic justice, which will save lots of time and money connected to sending procedural documents to different instances. So courts should create all opportunities for communication with them through email, through electronically. Also, court fees and administrative cases should be reduced. And there is more than in civil cases. Administrative cases, those are cases when someone argues with the state, and when they appeal decisions because they have so high fees, just because they wanted to reduce the number of such appeals to courts when people appeal against the state. Also, we suggest serious changes as to judges. Selection of judges should be exclusively based on the competition. We have the situation when judges from appeal courts, Supreme Court, they are selected without any competition just because of some agreements or some connections. And we should not have that anymore. There should be a transparent competition to qualifying commissions that participate in such selection. There should be representatives of NGOs. From the highest qualification commission, we should cancel it as an institution because they show themselves as very engaged and they were completely under the control of the former president. Also, measures should be taken on the constitutional level to bring new blood to judges, at least highest court, Supreme Court, appeal courts, because of them there were those crimes they committed during many years. If we don't renovate higher levels of our courts, it will be very difficult to achieve radical changes of court practice. They should work for people. And also we suggest some changes in terms of responsibility of judges. There should be clear rules how to bring judges to responsibility, competitive procedures, disciplinary commissions with the participation of legal community, and deciding on one disciplinary procedure, because we have now 4 of them, and they're different from each other. And in the end, I wanted to mention also the reform of the prosecution. We don't see any role of the prosecution outside of the system of criminal justice. So there is no monitoring, no surveillance or supervision on civil cases that should come from a prosecutor. Appointments in the prosecution should be based on the competition, not by criteria of political loyalty, which we observed during the last 20 years. Thank you very much for your attention.
Dear colleagues, I can see we have some questions from the end of this audience. Just a sec, we are going to shortly sum up what we said. And it has been a very short presentation about the reforms which were elaborated, prepared by our experts. We are not talking about something abstract or general approaches. We are talking about already verified and generated text of the documents which have been either approved by Verkhovna Rada or approved by the first reading or are prepared for the registration. We are talking about specific things. So propose to political parties to undertake the obligations, liabilities regarding specific draft laws. Speaking about our dialogue with the political party, we are going to inform mass media. Also, we call the media to participate in our dialogue and see which party would like to agree to support those reforms. Also, we would like to call upon on the citizens while voting to pay attention to about the preparedness or readiness of this party to vote for those reforms. All those materials, the roadmap of reforms, the infographics for this will be published today or actually would be given on the website of the RPR. I would like to thank the candidate deputies who are present here during our presentation. We are not going to call out their names or the names of the parties in order to avoid the political propaganda, but thank you very much for your wisdom or coming to such events, and thank you very much, and we do hope to yours about your support of those reforms. Now the questions. Okay, while you were summing up, there is no question. Okay, we have a question again. Good afternoon. It's not rather a question, but since I'm a representative of political party, the United Self-Assistance, we thank you very much for the presented road map. We do not have any conflict between your program, your roadmap, and the political program of our party. And we hope that this roadmap is going to become the compass for the reforms in the Ukrainian parliament. And we are going to probably give you all-round and comprehensive assistance for the promotion of those reforms in Ukraine. We understand that you're going to tell us about the reforms. We have another question. Just to echo what has been already said, as I understand, 9 months have elapsed, not so much fruitful as we all wish to be, because there is no political will to approve those ideas. The same parties in the parliament are going to become candidates for the next parliament. So who can rely upon? You were talking about the leading political forces. Have you analyzed their programs? Do you know who is going to agree with your proposals? In general speaking, what about the prospects, in your opinion, regarding their reforms or support reforms? I will answer a different way. Irrespective of how you analyze the political platforms of parties, they are cardinally or radically different from this document, because in every case, we are talking about some specific draft laws or draft targets and tasks. Unfortunately, the political parties are full of different promises which do not allow to bring them to responsibility. This is number one. Number two, even through the agreement, we are not going to follow the pathway agreements or concord or consent. No, we have the document which we publicly are going to sign, the public agreement where even the regional party candidate have to put his signature under the draft law, and we are going to keep count how many people sign this or that document. And when they come to work in the parliament, we are going to visit them and say, this is your signature, please work to fulfill your promise. Elena Minch, candidate deputy to parliament from the Democratic Alliance Party, also the working group member of the RPR. I'm really happy that there are such initiatives, but my question to your colleagues is as follows. Are we going to cooperate with other bodies or agencies who also deal with the reforms under the cabinet of ministers, under administration president? And actually, every party has some kind of their elaborated ideas and proposals regarding the reforms in our party, for example. Also, there are. Not only we are going to cooperate with those, but we already do that on the initiative of RPR and the Restoration Foundation. We have in the cabinet of ministers such an institution headed by Barak. And experts cooperate. They have a possibility to be present at the cabinet of ministers of the government meetings and voice their proposals. Many bad decisions or resolutions have been stopped, or on the contrary, some of the good ones have been promoted. We work through the platform of reforms, including 26 people's deputies, through who we register the draft laws. We provide the information, we try to lobby those, and we hope that those representatives will be at least 226 members of parliament, including the RPR representatives, you know that we have the national program of reforms. You know, there is no composition yet of that group, which will be formed or formulated only after the parliamentary elections. We delegated our experts and our representatives when our Khmara is going to become operational. By all means, we are going to be involved in this effort and cooperate with them. Nobody can avoid the cooperation with RPR. We will listen and hear everybody. We'll find everybody and make them and force them to do something about reforms. You remember Ms. Franklin said that I'm not a politician, I'm doing something. We are not politicians, we are public experts who are going to live in this country, and we are going to demand from any kind of the authorities empowered that be to fulfill the necessary things, Can you say whether your presence already in those agencies and bodies? So how it happened that there was no dialogue regarding the constitutional reform? Ms. Koliushko mentioned that there was no communication of those. Can you explain that? We heard what Mr. Koliushko said, that underground, representatives of President Poroshenko, because President Poroshenko does not declare or publicly doesn't do anything about the. We are talking about some covert or secret preparations, some actions, then they openly declare those. President Poroshenko does not declare any of his decisions regarding the Constitution included. They does not establish any working groups. They never involved himself in public discussion. And yesterday, adoption of some of the laws is one of the example of that. We have to teach and make Mr. Poroshenko to consult with his own people, with the political and legal entities. This is our joint task. Another very graphic example. I told you about 3G. This is a good example that seemingly there is a dialogue, but in reality there is nothing. A working group, Ms. Chimki was working, and then he joined the administration president, and lucky enough, we have the decree which he has to fulfill. There is the dialogue. But when the resolution there, when we have to involve or find some 6 billion hryvnia in our budget, but after that, during overnight, some person, we don't know who, prepares a new resolution just to participate in the market. Then we buy another mobile phone, and we show to the cabinet ministers what would be the case with one license. Again, they changed the resolution. Number 3, another resolution was not adopted or approved because somebody was interfering with that. So unfortunately, this is a one-way or unilateral process. Corruption continues to be. There is no political will, and which makes us even more be angry and more active. Thank you. So what mechanism or interaction with the President of Ukraine if the draft resolution regarding the National Council reforms and only one person from RPR is there, and even this person is the candidate deputy to Parliament, and you call your council a public one. They went change each other so fast that we cannot even follow them. Ganis Gabko actually she recalled back. I hear her application because he's going to become a politician. We don't know who will represent our RPR in the presidential administration. A new example, when the day was over, and I wrote in my Facebook a phrase which was actually echoed by tens and hundreds of people. I said that today's sitting of the Verkhovna Rada is over. For the Euro integrators, it's frustration. For the illustrators, it's kind of euphoria, and for some others, it was some bad word used for that. We actually didn't have 6 voices for the anti-corruption bureau to be established. The presidential decree did not work, which we prepared together with him for 6 months. We were just polishing it, but when it reached the parliament, the Turchin tried to make some pressure, but he didn't have enough pressure. He did not consult with deputies. He did not talk with the groups. He did not hear their thoughts and ideas. When we're talking what is the task of the president, not to be such a judge, to be a participant of the process, to work in the working groups, to crystallize the messages or whatever. If he himself cannot do that because of lack of time, he has a number of assistants, at least two first deputies at the same time, my friends. How we are going to work with him? Very simply, our PR, we can work in three different formats. First, experts. We always start our dialogues with the open talk during the round table. This can be this way or another way. Let's approve this decision. In 50% of the cases, it works. And you know what was done in the government. It was through the dialogue with RPR. Another format is some kind of public actions, almost with the tires being burned near the parliamentary building or some other governmental official places. You were talking about the consolidated public voice in the street. Upon the completion of the action in the Maidan, this is the voice of the RPR. And the third format we work in is our negotiations, how to put it, with the most active representative political forces and the state institutions. What is in store for them if they say no? It works sometimes, but not always. In other words, we are forced to resort to different strategies and tactics, and we hope that these elections will allow us not to resort to the third format, that the parliament will do something about reforms. We believe in that, but we understand that there will be no stable or, let's say, sustainable situation with those reforms in Ukraine in the foreseeable future, because they are going again to be involved in some redistribution of some quotas and portfolios, etc., etc. And we do hope that in the new composition of the Verkhovna Rada there will be more those in support of your reforms. Unfortunately, we have to finish this briefing for lack of time. Please come again and inform us about the progress in your efforts. And esteemed colleagues,